How to live alone. It starts with silence. Not the kind that hovers over a library or the hush before a funeral service begins, but the kind of silence that walks in and makes itself at home, that spreads across the walls, over the furniture, and finally presses its way down on the space where another voice should have been. Mira moved into apartment 3B on a cloudy Thursday. Her only witness, a bored delivery man and an old woman watering plastic flowers across the hall. She carried 3 cardboard boxes and a duffel bag, none of which seemed heavy until she had to take them up the stairs alone. No elevator. The landlord, a man who seemed more oil than blood, had smiled with crooked teeth and promised it worked when he bought the building. The apartment was small, 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, and a kitchen that breathed heavy when both the microwave and toaster were plugged in. But the windows faced west, and at the right time of day, the whole place flushed gold. Mira stood in that glow with dust in her hair and silence at her heels and thought, this will do. She learned early on that living alone wasn't about surviving without others. It was about reshaping the world to fit only you. Mornings became a quiet ritual. Wake up at 7:30 a.m. because she liked the sound of the city stretching its limbs. No alarm, no need to whisper or tiptoe around someone else's sleep. She drank her coffee black, not because she liked it that way, but because there was no one to offer her cream, and she didn't care enough to buy it herself. The silence approved. At first, she left the TV on for background noise. News, weather, documentaries. Anything with a voice that reminded her the world was spinning. But eventually, she turned it off. The murmur of traffic below was enough, and her own thoughts had started to speak louder. Some days, she would rearrange the furniture, not out of necessity, but because she could. The couch faced the wall, then the window, then sat diagonal in the center of the room for a week. Her bookshelf organized itself and reorganized itself again, alphabetically, by color, by genre, and then by how each book made her feel. Once Mira stood at the window for 2 hours watching a man try to parallel park. Nights were the hardest at first. There was a wait to 2 a.m. that no amount of pillows or podcasts could soften. The silence then wasn't peaceful. It was expectant, as if waiting for something to crack. Sometimes she imagined hearing footsteps outside her door or the faint hum of someone else breathing. But it was always just her, in the building settling like old bones. She started writing notes to herself and sticking them on the fridge. Buy milk. Remember to water the fern. You're doing okay. The last one stayed up the longest. She had no pets. She liked animals, sure, but didn't want the responsibility of something else depending on her. That was the whole point, wasn't it? To be alone truly and not disguise the solitude with paws or purring. Friends texted sometimes. Some invited her out, others sent memes. One even tried to set her up with someone who just got out of a long relationship too. Mira responded politely and declined consistently. They stopped trying eventually. It wasn't personal, it was just quieter this way. She wasn't hiding from the world. She went to the store, to the library, to the cafe that never asked for her name with the order. She smiled at strangers and held doors open. She existed. She was not lonely. Loneliness was a hunger. Solitude, she learned, was a fast. Her neighbor, the one with the plastic flowers, started knocking once a week with leftovers. Too much stew, she would say. Or I baked again, Lord help me. Mira always accepted, always said thank you, and never invited her in. They understood each other. Time passed like water over glass. It didn't stop, didn't slow, just slid along her skin until she forgot what dry felt like. Seasons turned, and the radiator hissed in winter, like a snake dreaming of summer. One evening, she dropped a glass in the kitchen. It shattered spectacularly, and for a moment Mira stood barefoot among the shards, stunned by the sound. It had been so long since anything had made a noise that sharp, that final. She laughed then, really laughed, loud and full, and the silence blinked. Just a moment. She swept up the glass, humming to herself. There was something about not being seen that stripped away the need to pretend. She danced badly in her pajamas. She read poetry aloud to no one. She cried sometimes, not from sadness, but from the sheer relief of having nowhere to hide and no one to hide from. Living alone was not about isolation. It was about confrontation with the self, with memory, with silence. And when you lived with those long enough, they stopped being enemies. They became old roommates, each with their quirks. Silence, it turned out, just wanted to be listened to, and Mira did.